Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers lose to the Montreal Canadiens 5-4 in overtime. A pretty wild game in Montreal where the Rangers led 4 different occasions: 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, and 4-3. Montreal never had the lead in the game, but they're the team that ends up with the 2 points. And Montreal was the better team. I mean, the third pair of the Canadiens were much better than the Rangers. Jonathan Quick was in net. And so another failed opportunity for him to get his 400th NHL win. And he made a lot of big saves along the way, even though he allowed 5 goals. And even though a couple of them, weren't the best, he also was the reason why the Rangers even got a point. Just disappointing against a Montreal team that is right there with you in the standings. The Rangers were going for the season sweep. They were unable to accomplish that. And so the Rangers do extend their point streak to 8. So, 5-0-3 the last 8 games. They are 6-1-3 in their last 10. So they continue to do that. But this, again, these 2 games against Columbus and Montreal, very different, very different. And like I say, the Rangers in these run and gun, high scoring games, it doesn't typically work out. That was kind of true here as well. So it was a winnable game, but I think that Montreal was the better team. And, from the Rangers' perspective, I understand that, the travel and the schedule makers didn't do the Rangers any favors. I get that. I acknowledge that. But still, not good enough. And we'll talk about a lot of things that to me were a bit perplexing in terms of personnel decisions, lineup deployments from Peter Laviolette. But it's tough. Rangers right now, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot with some teams to jump over as well. So I think right now the spots are Ottawa and Columbus. And, you still have, Montreal and Boston, a whole bunch of other teams, right around the Rangers. So I just, you can't give up points like this. Forget about the opponent for a second too. And that's a huge factor, right? That you're giving those other teams points. But just from the Rangers perspective, that's now 2 times recently, Colorado, where they really were so close to getting 2 points and didn't. And now this one. And if the Rangers had at least been doing this earlier in the year, getting these points, these overtime losses, then that'd be all right. But it took them so long. The Rangers were losing game after game after game in regulation. That kills you in this playoff setup with this point system. It really puts you in a tough spot. And now that's where the Rangers are, trying to climb out of this thing. But they're not doing themselves any favors. So as I kind of suspected would be the case, Montreal did go with their backup, who had actually been better recently than Sam Montembeault. And it was his first start for Jakub Dobish. And he made some really big saves. I mean, the Rangers had chances to, take a 5-3 lead in the third. Not many. I thought the Rangers' worst period by far was the third, but they almost made it 5-3 in a couple of instances. And then in overtime, there was a couple of chances. And, I kind of want to jump straight to overtime, but I guess first let's just talk lineup. It was the same lineup, which again which is surprising for me. Again, the defense, we know what that is, and that's not going to change, right? Zach Jones is going to be a healthy scratch. I don't think he deserves to be out this much. I don't think his days as a Ranger are honestly that much longer. To me, the longest that Jack Jones is staying a Ranger is the rest of the season. Like, come next year, I'd be, at this point, shocked if he were still on this team. But for the forwards, Matt Rempe again is in the lineup. Why exactly? And he got into a fight. Montreal didn't get a power play goal, but they kind of did. And Rempe was the one that took the penalty that led to that. Brodzinski, I believe, did participate in warmups. So there was, I guess, a chance that I don't know how, but that he was going to play, but he didn't. So they are sticking with Matt Rempe. And I understand the value that he brings, but he barely plays when he's out there. I just, for me at this point, I'd rather not even deal with it. He's nice to have as an option if you really need it. But I think that either VZ or Brodzinski just give you just a little bit more of a complete game, and you can truly roll 4 lines and just add a little more versatility. If you want to get rempy in some of these home games at MSG and get the crowd going, why not? Fine, I can and you get last change, but these road games, like I just makes even less sense. So that was weird, but whatever, not a huge deal. To me, what was just crazy was overtime, and we'll get back around to that. But I want to start there. Laviolette has Heedle, Kreider, and Miller start the 3-on-3 overtime. I mean, just doesn't make sense at all. And I'm trying to understand what the rationale was. And maybe it was, Montreal's a lot, they're a more speedy team than the Rangers. Maybe, those are, some of your faster players. But even to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Really doesn't. And I think that how do you not? Here's the thing. Filip Chytil, first off, and he actually won the faceoff. Filip Chytil is your worst centerman when it comes to faceoffs. So that right there, in a 3-on-3 scenario, to me, takes him out of the original equation to begin with. How it wouldn't be Vincent Trocheck is crazy. How it wouldn't be Trocheck, Panarin, and Fox to start the overtime is like ridiculous. They start with Heedle, Kreider, and Miller. Like, first off, like, how is Miller the one that's starting? I mean, Canadiens Miller did not have a good game. I understand that, like, on a pecking order basis, as crazy as this may sound, Keandre probably is one of your best defensemen, which, again, that's not good. Speaks to the team. But Adam Fox is, like, far and away your best defenseman and absolutely someone you want in a 3-on-3 situation. But he wasn't at the start. And it's been Keandre consistently as the one that has been out there to start the overtime. Now I'll go to Heedle and Kreider. Are those the guys you really want out there? In the case of Kreider, it makes no sense. Kreider at this point is basically a power play specialist. He's still good in front of the net. He's not one, like, you need puck possession in overtime more than anything. Chris Kreider is one of the worst in terms of holding on to the puck. That's not his game at all. And so there was moments where he, I guess I'll save the details for later, but Kreider is certainly not a guy you want out there. And then Heedle, like I said, for the fact that he's not going to face us to begin with, but he as well is a guy that, like, you do need a little bit of defensive prowess, honestly, in the 3-on-3. You do need it. So the fact that we didn't even see, like, Will Cooley was not even out on the 3-on-3. Neither was Riley Smith. Hell, even Sam Carrick. That would have, to me, like, made some sense. But you're going to have Heedle and Kreider and Miller be the ones that take the extra shift, and they lost on that. So we'll get more into that. But that just, like, bothered me and just speaks to just ineptitude in terms of this, personnel management. It just doesn't make any sense. And I understand that in the grand scheme of things, like 3-on-3 overtime and shootout and things like that, they don't matter much. But it just speaks to, like, how they feel about certain players. And I'm typically pro Phil Heedle, everything being equal, but, like, I'm sorry. I would have even rather, like, Zibanejad, for all of his struggles that he's had, at least even when he fucks up on these breakaways, he's getting those chances. Like, he has been pretty dangerous in these situations, despite the fact that he has not converted. And he, so again, none of it really made a lot of sense. But let's get into this game. Kind of teased it there. But Jonathan Quick, again, looking for that 400th NHL win. It's a shame they didn't get it. His team kind of let him down. He let himself down in a few situations, but so did they. So that's 3 times that he's been unsuccessful. At Washington, where they gave up a shit ton of goals. Home against Dallas, where also gave up a good amount of goals. Quick has had his failures. Actually, that feels like a strong word. That's not the right word. But he, Igor certainly now, seems a lot more dialed in than Quick. Again, that said, I can't talk negatively on him. He really was the reason why they were even in this game. That's how bad they were on the defensive side. I mean, this was such a wide open run and gun game. And that's how you're going to lose. That's how this Ranger team will lose. They need to somehow, even if it's boring, they have to be able to play a sound, smart, defensive game. And they didn't do that. And so Dobish, the rookie, is able to get another win for the Montreal Canadiens. So I think he's now 5-0 in 5 career starts. I believe that's what it is, which is pretty crazy. But first period rolls around, and I would say Rangers' first 2 periods were all right. They weren't great. They were probably fortunate to be leading after 2. And so, again, that has been a problem now. Again, these blown leads at the end of 2 periods, now that's becoming a thing. One of the things that I gave them some credit for, you can kind of throw that away now. But first period, the Rangers get on the board first, and it's Alexis Lafreniere scoring his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Keandre Miller. So at 11-17, 1-0. This is a play where Miller takes a shot towards the net, I guess, and it takes a really, really weird carom off of the glass towards the front of the net. Lafreniere gets over there and scores. So a bit of a fortunate break for the Rangers, but they'll take it. And Lafreniere, again, there's so much more to be desired from Lafreniere's game. I thought this was another game. That line, it's not good defensively. You need more. Like, I think Trocheck's game, by and large, has improved over the last weeks, but he's the only one on that line that is going to give you some defensive attention. So good for Lafreniere to score that goal. Happy about that. But there's also other parts in this game that were just maddening when it comes to him. And so, again, good bounce, lucky break. Rangers take advantage of it, 1-0. Then from there, Montreal ties it up. At 13:52, Brandon Gallagher scores his 11th goal of the season from Dvorak and Anderson. This is a play. Will Borgen had a really rough game. This was Will Borgen's worst game in a bit since he was initially a Ranger. He turns it over, and it leads to a situation where it's a shot by Dvorak deflected in off of Gallagher's stick, I believe. Keandre Miller might have provided a screen in front for Quick. There was nothing that Quick could do about it. Between Gallagher tipping it, and again, I don't even think he saw it, but a really bad turnover by Borgen that sets this whole thing up. And that wouldn't be the first time that a Borgen turnover in his own zone would lead to a Montreal goal. So it ties it up at 1 right there. Then the Rangers respond right back. And that was a thing where the Rangers typically, when Montreal scored, the Rangers had that response very quickly. So it's funny. So even though Montreal was the team that always would eventually tie the game, if you actually look at kind of the time that goals were scored, it was actually the Rangers got that. Basically what it was the Rangers, Montreal's responses were pretty quick too, but not as quick as the Rangers were. And so they then retake the lead, and it's Will Cooley with his 12th goal of the season unassisted. So Cooley, who had been a bit partially snake bitten and hadn't been playing as well, gets his first goal in quite some time. And it was a play where Arbor Jackeye makes a bad turnover behind the net. And onto the stick of Cooley, who just rips it, passes Dobish. And, again, Dobish kind of looked a little bit shaky. As much as he made some big saves, he also was a little, favorable towards the Rangers. So that makes it 2-1. So goals by Lafreniere and Cooley in the first period. Then penalties start to ensue a bit. And I guess for here, it was all matching minors. At 14:43, you get roughing penalties on Edstrom and Schneider, as well as Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. So this was one that I think this was where Schneider ends up bleeding on this play. So I don't think he missed much time at all, but I think he did have to get some repairs. But yeah, so right there, this was a pretty, more than you would think, high intensity, fisticuffs, heated sort of game. It really did have it did have kind of a playoff feel to it in Montreal. Again, it was a good game. If you're just watching this as an NHL fan, it had a lot of action. And so nothing comes of that. No goals are scored. And the Rangers have a 2-1 lead at the end of 1. So again, thinking about some of the Rangers stats when leading into the first period, some of those things seem to be getting a little bit worse. The Rangers just in general, they're playing a lot closer games now, for better or worse. So we go to the second period, and at 2:58, Matt Rempe gets the extra 2 minutes. He's called for roughing Arbor Jackeye, and it's a fight between Rempe and Jackeye. two heavyweights for sure. Um, and Hedel was the one that was serving the penalty on Rempe. And the Rangers do technically kill off this penalty, but not really. Because what happens is Hedel comes out of the box, and Montreal, they are going down the zone. So Riley Smith gets a shot blocked, and Montreal has a little bit of an odd man rush, kind of. And it's a pass by Brendan Gallagher to Christian Dvorak, and it goes off of the stick and Hedel and in. So Quick, could Quick have been better positionally? Yes, but I think he was anticipating the Dvorak. I don't know. Things got thrown off by the fact that it went off a Hedel stick. And he was the one that was serving the penalty by Rempe. So again, not a power play goal, but kind of. And that's where, I think Rempe's kind of doing you more harm than good at this point with the way that they're using him at the very least. So that makes it 2-2. And then at 5:38, Caden Gooley gets the extra minor for Ruff and Philip Hedel. So both of them get penalties, but Gooley, the one who gets the extra two. Rangers don't score on that power play. However, another penalty by Montreal, where Josh Anderson cross-checks Keandre Miller at 9:42. And this time the Rangers do score. And it's Mika Zibanejad on the power play, his 9th goal of the season from Fox and Panarin at 10:24. So I think Kreider might have provided a screen in front of this one. Zibanejad with the shot from up top goes in. So again, for Zibanejad, while there's a lot of frustrations and, it's definitely a problem, Mika has been getting better lately. It's not saying much because he was really just truly awful. And I think still his season as a whole is much more of a negative than a positive. But you're seeing some good things. And it makes it 3-2 Rangers there. But it's another response from the Canadiens. And at 15:05, Nick Suzuki scores his 14th goal of the season unassisted. But really, it was assisted by Will Borgen. So Borgen, he had plenty of time, and he just loses it to Nick Suzuki, and Suzuki takes a shot and scores. Now, this was not a great goal by Jonathan Quick, right? I think if I'm looking at all the goals allowed, this one was not great. And I think the only ones that you can blame Quick on at all would be maybe this one and maybe goal 4 for the rebound. But I still have a tough time really pinning that on him. But this one was kind of a little bit from distance. A terrible turnover, though, by Will Borgen, and it ties it up at 3. But again, the Rangers are able to get right back at it. Only a minute and 15 seconds later, Chris Kreider scores his 15th goal of the season, assisted by Fox and Lindgren. So Ryan Lindgren takes a slap shot that goes wide. Fox is able to get it in the corner and finds Kreider, who's just standing there alone in front, or kind of alone in front, for a nice goal. So good play there. It makes it 4-3 Rangers. So Kreider, has been getting some goals. Again, no assists. I don't like how he really looks, generally speaking, but the goal scoring is still there. And so it makes it 4-3. And then there's a penalty. Adam Fox delaying game at 16:26. But the Rangers do kill this off. So it's 4-3 Rangers going to the third period. And this is where Montreal really takes over in a big, big way. And they outshot the Rangers 16-6 in the third period. So the first half of that period was all Montreal. Jonathan Quick making big save after big save. It feels like it's a matter of time before something really bad happens. And Vakanainen at 4:59 interferes with Nick Suzuki. But the Rangers are able to get the kill. So some encouraging signs. And there was a point in time, again, around midway through the period, I think, maybe a little bit after that, where I think it was Philip Hedel. There was some really good chances to make it 5-3, and they are unable to get it done. And if you get that there's a decent chance that you're coming out of this game with the 2 points. But they don't. And Montreal does take advantage of that. And they tie it up at 12:52. Juraj Slafkovsky scores his 6th goal of the season from Caulfield and Hudson. So again, with a little more than 7 minutes left, Montreal ties it up. And this is a play where Alexis Lafreniere could have taken the delayed offside. And I understand in the moment why you wouldn't, because if you do that, then the puck is, the faceoff's in your own zone. But if you're not going to touch it, then you better bust your ass back there. And that doesn't happen. So that leads to, a bit of an odd man rush for the Canadiens, going with speed. Hudson taking it to the middle of the ice, making a nice play to Caulfield, who takes a shot, rebound, goes in. Slafkovsky beats Trocheck. and it ties it up at 4. That was obviously gigantic. Montreal crowd erupts, and we're all tied up. And really, it felt like to me for the rest of regulation, it was kind of like for the Rangers, all right, like just kind of hold on at this point. Not to say they didn't have some chances, but it was like, all right, you're kind of lucky to even get this into overtime. So they get the point, as is Montreal. Not good that they blew it. We go to overtime, and that's where I get back to just Hedl, Kreider, Miller to start. It's mind-boggling to me. Doesn't make sense. And then the second trio that comes on is Trocheck, Panarin, and Fox. And that was where they got their best chances. Trocheck had a really nice opportunity on a pass from Panarin, and then Panarin on I think it was a one-time pass from maybe Fox. And, Dobish goes from side to side to make the save. Really, like he was at his best in overtime, really. And then the next trio was Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Schneider. And then they go back to fucking Hedl, Kreider, and Miller. Again, I don't understand, A, the order, B, who was out there. And early in the overtime, Kreider all three of those guys were messing up. No awareness of the fact that you need possession of the puck. Kreider just taking a shot on net that had no chance of anything, so you lose possession, which is ridiculous. Kreider also got the puck stolen from him. You got to dig in there, and his brain was just somewhere else. Then what ends up leading to the goal, there's a couple of things that happen. So there was a play that could have been called boarding on Josh Anderson for maybe boarding Filip Hedl. That probably should have been called, right? But I'm not going to complain about the refs. I'm just not going to. And Keandre Miller has the puck, and instead of going back with it and keeping it with the Rangers, he decides to just basically throw it forward around behind the Montreal net, and Montreal ends up getting the puck. And the Rangers never saw the puck again. Keandre Miller, the hockey IQ is just so low. It's kind of scary. Just not the smartest player at all. And honestly, just that trio in general, you can't say you felt confident with those guys out there. And for them to get it'd be one thing if, hey, they were the third or fourth trio out there, fine, get it. But for them to be the first one, so it doesn't make sense to me. And so then they go down the ice, and it was a play where Patrick Laine scores the goal. His 12th goal of the season from Gouli and Evans at 3:20 of overtime. So nice passing play. Again, from Evans to Gouli to Laine. And I think Hedl was the one that kind of just let up on Laine. I think that was his guy, and he just let him go right through the middle. Not to say that the other two were really doing a whole lot either. Kreider, not really sure what he was up to. So just bad ending. Montreal wins it 5-4 in overtime. So Rangers really waste away a precious point, and then 2 go to Montreal. So again, it's twofold. And so now the Rangers will come home to take on the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa coming off of a big win at New Jersey. Senators, to me, if I had to make predictions right now, I could definitely see them getting one of those 2 wildcard spots. It's not a prediction that you feel amazing about, but if I had to say right now, hey, who do you think is going to get one of those spots? I think Ottawa very well might. And so that's a big, big game on Tuesday night for the Rangers. They need to find a way to get the 2 points there, and particularly win in regulation. So 22-20-4 at this point. And now the next 4 games are at home. And it is Ottawa, Philly, Colorado, and Carolina. Not easy at all. And I'd say especially the biggest ones are these next 2, and really the Ottawa one especially. The Rangers got to find a way. Hey, it's 8 straight games with points. It's been a generally good January, but I still don't know if it totally passes the eye test. This was a game where Rangers were kind of fortunate to get a point. They were giving up way too many opportunities, really bad turnovers, just not smart hockey. Jonathan Quick is unable to get that elusive 400th NHL win. He'll have to wait another time, to which I'm not sure exactly when that'll be. So, Rangers, they blow 4 separate leads, lose 5-4 in overtime to the Montreal Canadiens.